This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and proceed. Today is September 25th, 2024 at 2 p.m. And the project that we're going to discuss today is RCC, bus wash, fueling, fueling and maintenance, HVAC rehabilitation. Next slide, please. Welcome. As I just mentioned, the title is RCC, Bus Wash, Fueling and Maintenance, HVAC Rehabilitation. The contract number is PA1424. Just a few housekeeping rules before we go further. Please make sure that your mics are muted, your videos, and your phones. At any time, if we lose connection of the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation will be accessible at the DFW solicitation website, which is linked right across. The presentation is being recorded. No information, comments, or clarifications shared orally during this meeting are binding unless incorporated via addendum. If you have not signed in, also there's a link listed to the side and below a QR code. I'll give you a few moments to jot that down if you need to before we move to the next screen. Next screen, please. On the agenda for today, we're going to have several overviews. The first one would be solicitation. The second is business diversity and development. The third would be the insurance overview. The fourth, quality control. Fifth, project. Sixth, contract. Seventh, we'll have a open discussion with questions and answers. And the last thing we'll do, we'll close out with just a few reminders. Next screen, please. And now we will proceed with the solicitation overview. Next screen. What you see here is your procurement team. James Liggermy, he's a contract administrator on the solicitations team with myself. I am Crystal Smith, the contract administrator who is facilitating this meeting today. The senior contract administrator is Esmeralda Ramirez. Our contracts manager is Dwanetta Russell, and our AVP of contracts is Ron Duncan. Next slide, please. Procurement, materials, and management. Cone of silence. To ensure a proper and fair evaluation, the DFW International Airport has established a cone of silence applicable to all competitive selection processes, including RFQs, RFPs, and RFBs. The cone of silence is designed to protect the integrity of the procurement process by shielding it from undue influences. The cone of silence will be imposed on all competitive selections processes, beginning with advertisement for the same and ending with the board selection for RFQs, RFPs, or the board's award for RFBs. The cone of silence begins when the solicitation is advertised/released and ends after the contract/purchase order is awarded, noting that the release of some information is restricted by law. Potential bidders/proposers shall not discuss any aspect of release of solicitations with the airport personnel, with the exception of the contract administrator/buyer listed in the solicitation. Next slide, please. The solicitation schedule as followed. Deadlines for questions are October 4th, 2024 at 4 p.m. Issue addendum October 11th, 2024. Bid due October 29th, 2024 at 2 p.m. Bid read aloud shortly after October 29th, 2024 at 2:30 p.m. Anticipated airport board action is December 5th at 2024. Next slide, please. The bid document review, the instruction to bidders, required forms, all the required forms that are listed. Method of compensation is lump sum. 5% of the bid bond guarantee must submit with the bid. Payment and performance bond, submit with signed contract. Liquidated damages are $358 per day. Insurance requirements, standard. Allowances, $285,000. Construction permit, no cost to bidder, fee paid by DFW. Next slide, please. Now we're going to move over to the business diversity and development, and Alexander Andrews will take the floor from here.
Hello, sorry, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great, great. Hello, everyone, and my name is Alexander Andrews. I'm the business specialist for the Business Diversity and Development Department. And today I'm going to be providing you of an overview of the MWB program requirements. Now, please keep in mind, keep any questions until the end of the presentation, and we'll leave time in order to answer any of your questions about our requirements, any documentation that I go over, or our any MWBE prospects. And with this, I'll begin with the next slide. So the purpose of the goal setting process is to reduce barriers to MWB participation on board procurement, all departments requesting bids, proposals, or any other solicitation on behalf of the airport board. So a 15% goal is applicable to this solicitation, and the goal is a percentage of the contract value and was determined based on the scope of work and the availability of certified minority women business enterprises and the NAICS codes provided for this solicitation. Next slide. Here's a little overview of the required MWB forms. So all the forms listed here are required to be submitted at the time of your bid submission. Just a reminder that these forms must be and submitted at the time of your submission in order to pass this first step of our pass-fail review. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation today, complying with the MWB program requirements is a valuable consideration in the award of an airport contract. And once the contract has been awarded, non-compliance with the MWB program requirements, including prompt payments and complaints, could result in the withholding of funds, temporary contract suspension, termination of this contract, suspension, or a non-responsive determination on future bid considerations. Next slide. In the commitment form shown, first it's important for the prime to list the solicitation number and applicable goal for that solicitation. The prime is to identify whether self-performed with percentage participation, or only using subcontractor participation. It's very important that the prime has a signature requested in this illustration in order to be accepted by DFW's Business and Development Department. The commitment to MWB participation form is where you identify how you plan to meet the diversity goal, and again, only check one option here as illustrated. Next slide. So the final schedule subcontractors form here is where you identify all subcontractors to be utilized on the contract, including their certification status, scope of work, a percentage and dollar commitment for each contract subcontractor as well. And we ask that you do not use to be determined or TBD in lieu of a percentage and dollar commitment, as that will deem you non-responsive. Again, please use your dollar amount or percentage, or that will deem you non-responsive, because we have to be able to determine the percentages and dollar amount associated with your proposed MWB participation. And the total of the subcontractor's participation and the prime's self-performance should total 100% as shown here in the illustration. If you're self-performing prime, this requires a signature as well. And your percentage that you, the prime, is committed to, and it should also match your commitment form as well. Next slide. So the intent form represents a commitment by a prime contractor that if it's awarded the contract, you'll enter into a subcontract with the MWB for the work described on the form. Both the prime and the MWB subcontractor must sign this form. The prime and sub will enter the necessary information, including name of the MWB sub and prime, address, contact person, email, phone number, and price and percentage the MWB subcontractor will be performing. Next slide. So the applicable diversity program is the Minority Women Business Enterprise Program, or MWB program. So note that only MBE or WBE certificates are acceptable. And also note that certifications that are not acceptable here in the illustration shown. So if you submit a certificate other than an MBE or a WB certificate, your proposal will be deemed non-responsive. And for an MWB subcontractor, it's up to you to provide the prime with the correct and acceptable certificates. Also, the NAICS codes must match the definition of the scope of work provided from the sub, and also MWB certificates are due at the time of bid submission. And one more thing to note is that pending certifications in the process of being renewed are not acceptable, and a letter from a certification agency stating that the certification is pending or is being renewed is also not acceptable. Next slide. Here is an illustration. We see the three approved certifying entities that we work with, which are the North Central Regional Certification Agency, DFW's Minority Supplier Development Council, and the Women's Business Council Southwest. So if you're interested in partnering with a minority or woman-owned firm that is currently not certified, please take into consideration the time it takes to get certified. Again, pending certifications are not acceptable. So it's best to partner with a certified MWBE to meet the proposal submission deadline. Next slide. So here are examples of the certification agencies right here. So again, on your certifications, make sure you're checking the expiration date and that the NAICS codes match the scope of work that the sub will be provided for the work they'll be doing on the civil solicitation. And another thing to note is out-of-state firms that have certificates issued by the National Minority Supplier Development Council must have affiliate certificates from the DFW Minority Supplier Development Council. And same goes with the Women's Business Council. You must have the affiliate certificate from our partner, the Women's Business Council Southwest. So just to note those couple things. And next slide. So, and also in addition to being certified by one of the three approved certifying entities, the MWB firm must have a physical place of business in the airport's relevant market area, which consists of 4 counties that are Collin, Dallas, Denton, and Tarrant County, in order to count for your MWB credit. So, a PO box, virtual office, staffing office, shared office space, co-working spaces, an employee's residence, or temporary work or job sites are not acceptable. Next slide. So primes that are MWB certified can count themselves toward meeting the contract specific MWB goal. However, the prime can only do this for the work and the percentage level in which they will self-perform. If you're a self-performing MWB prime, you must perform at least 30% of the total cost of the contract within your own workforce. And what supplier participation will not be counted the same as subcontractor participation. And I'll go over more details of that in the next slide. So if the MWB firm in question is the primary manufacturer or of the materials or supplies provided, 100% of the cost of the materials supplies provided will count towards the MWB specific goal. But for an MWB firm that identifies as a regular dealer, either 60% or 100% of the cost of materials will be counted toward the contract specific MWB goal. And what that means is on contracts of less than $5 million at the time of bid selection, it'll be counted at 100%. And on contracts of $5 million or more at the time of bid selection, will be counted at 60%. Next slide. So if the MWB firm is an intermediary between 2 or more firms for the procurement of materials, equipment, or supplies for a fee, we're only going to count the fees and commissions at 100%. And if the MWB firm is acting as a representative for a manufacturer for a fee or commission, again, only the fees and commissions will count at 100%. Next slide. So you must meet the 15% goal for this solicitation or demonstrate good faith effort to meet that goal. A good faith effort is only required if the MWB goal is not met or only partially met. And again, pro forma efforts are not considered good faith efforts. What the good faith effort is a rigorous process that requires a proposer to demonstrate they exhausted all measures to find MWB participation. Also, the good faith effort involves not only responding to each of the good faith effort criteria outlines in the MWB program contract provisions, but also providing substantial support documentation to demonstrate the efforts made. This process requires a lot of time and energy, which would be better spent identifying potential MWB partners to meet your diversity goal with. And the submission of a good faith effort documentation is a matter of responsiveness, and it will include a specific response to each criteria that will be provided to you in this case. Next slide. So if you're a certified MWB firm and you haven't done so yet, please add your contact information to the chat box. And if you're not an MWBE, the pre-bid attendee list today will be made available by PMM for networking purposes. So to touch on this, other ways of connecting with MWBEs are the minority chambers in the DFW community, your advocacy organizations, and the 3 approved certification agencies that I reviewed with you earlier. DFW also offers an online MWB directory, which can be searched by business description or NAICS codes. But it's important to note that the directory is not a certification database. Again, it's not a certification database. What it is a listing of certified firms that have expressed an interest in doing business with DFW or are currently doing business with DFW and have given DFW permission to make their information public. Next slide. So, our keys to success. Again, we want you all to be successful. So That takes understanding a difference in our programs from your local and federal, which this is our MWB local program. Your goal versus the commitment you make, which to touch on that quickly is if the goal is 15% for this, but you commit to 20% through, again, from our MWBE commitment page I showed you from self performance or self performance with sub participation or all through sub participation, we expect you to meet that 20% goal that you committed to. So hopefully touching on that quickly gives a little bit more understanding to that. And make sure that you communicate with us all if possible for any questions that you have and submit those when writing. Make sure you're proofreading all of your information and your requirements and your documentation before submitting for compliance with the business diversity requirements. Complete and sign all forms as I've shown you before. Provide exact dollar amounts and percentages for the diversity participation as we require. Again, do not use to be decided or the phrase up to a certain percentage in lieu of your percentage and dollar commitment, as that will deem you non-responsive, and submit applicable and current MWB certifications for your subcontractors, or if you are self-performing, for yourself as a prime as well. And again, responsive determinations will move forward in the evaluation and consideration processes that we have, but unfortunately, those that are deemed non-responsive will not move forward. Next slide. And that's all from Business Diversity and Development today. I will now turn over to Risk Management and Ms. Dora Diaz.
I apologize, everyone. My headset was just not going to work today. Let's go ahead and begin. My name is Dora Diaz. I work in the Risk Management Department, and we are going to cover the insurance requirements for this contract. We're going to begin with the additional insured endorsement, which is a provision that refers to the Board of Directors of the DFW International Airport Board and includes the board's officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, and the cities of Dallas and Fort Worth. The waiver of subrogation means the insurer shall have no right of recovery or subrogation against the board or other parties listed above. Indemnification and hold harmless. The contractor covets and agrees to fully indemnify and hold harmless the parties listed above. In terms of the AM Best rating authorized by the Texas State Board of Insurance, a minimum rating of A- or 7 is required. Please note, insurance affidavit must be included with your proposal. In short, the certificate of insurance must name Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport Board and the cities of Dallas and Fort Worth, Texas, as an additional insured and must include the waiver of subrogation to be listed on the certificate of insurance. You can either have that checked off on the Accord 25 or add it to the comments. Next slide, please. Now, prior to the execution of the contract, the insurance agents, brokers, or insurers must provide evidence of that coverage via the certificate of insurance. You can either email it or fax it to the information listed here. You must keep this certificate current at all times. Insurance is to be maintained by the contractor or vendor in accordance with and except as otherwise specified in the contract. The contractor and their subcontractors, if any and of any tier, are required to maintain insurance coverage with policy limits not less than those set forth in the contract agreement. You are also required to always maintain this coverage at your own expense during the performance of the work. If you have the option of extending your contract, you are required to provide us with an updated COI on or before the expiration date. Next slide, please. If you do have subcontractors, DFW Airport does require you to provide and maintain insurance coverage for your subs. If your subs do not have insurance, you are to provide the insurance for your subs, and you can do that by designating the subcontractor as an additional insured, by blanket additional insured endorsement, or by specific endorsement. You are to verify that your subs are continually in compliance with all contractual insurance requirements. And if your subcontractors do not have insurance, then you shall assume all liability for those subcontractors. If you're providing goods or services in the Air Operations Area, also known as the AOA, please note you will not be granted access to this area without verification of insurance. It is the responsibility of the contractor and any subcontractors to ensure that you are always adequately covered until the end of the contract terms. Failure to maintain adequate coverage shall not relieve you from any excuse me, contractual responsibilities or obligations. Next slide, please. The figures that you see here are the bare minimum requirements. DFW does require you to carry workers' compensation, commercial general liability, and business auto liability. In addition, the contractor shall immediately provide written notice to DFW COI at dfwairport.com when or if a decision to cancel, terminate, or alter any insurance policy in any way has been made, as this will require approval from the Risk Management Department. Please be aware that you are responsible to ensure that contact information or changes to the contact information provided at the time of the contract signing is provided to the contract administrator and the risk management department. That covers the insurance. Good luck, everyone.
Next, we will have quality and control overview.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This is going to give you an overview of the quality control. So if you would go ahead and continue on with the next slide, please. The quality control leadership team is made up of Mitch Gray, Demetric, Larry, Rodney Stone, and Eric Hernandez has went on, but we'll be filling that role soon. But that's going to be your leadership from the quality department. Next slide, please. Quality control overview. Quality control plan provisions 100-1, the contractor shall establish, provide, and maintain an effective contractor quality control QCQ plan that details the methods and procedures that will be taken to assure, provide qualified personnel to develop and implement a QCCP, provide for the production and acceptable quality materials, provide sufficient information to assure that the specification requirements can be met. With this information, the contractor shall be prepared to discuss and present the QCCP at the pre-construction conference. The contractor shall not begin any construction or production of materials to be incorporated in the completed work until the quality control plan has been reviewed and approved by the EOR. Next slide, please. The quality control plan shall be organized and detailed to address the following items: quality control organization staffing levels, project progress schedule, submittal schedules, inspection requirements, QC testing plan, daily inspection reports, corrective action requirements, staffing levels, documentation of QC activities, and distribution of QC reports within DFW provided software. This information is found in both the general provisions and the technical specifications. Next slide, please. Quality Control Administrator, Program Administrator. The QCA shall cover all construction design and operations both on site and off site. The QCA will be held responsible for the quality of work and is subject to removal by the OAR for noncompliance with quality requirements specified in the contract. The QCA shall have full authority to institute all actions necessary for successful implementation of the QCP plan. The QCA authority must include the ability to immediately stop production until material and/or processes are following contract specifications. The QCA must report directly to a principal officer of the construction firm. Next slide, please. Quality control is critical in construction to ensure projects meet standards. The importance of the quality control in construction cannot be underestimated. It is a key factor in ensuring project success, from meeting standards to reducing risk and increasing efficiency. Next slide, please.
Next, we're going to have the project overview.
Good afternoon. This is Ruben Rivas with Gresham Smith. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Um, I'll be covering the project overview. Um, Next slide. So the design and construction team consists of the DCC crew. That would be Abel Saldana as the senior project manager. Um, Mark McCoy is the assistant project manager, and Zach Zachowitz is the construction manager. And the AE design team and CSS team. That the design manager is Ruben Rivas. That's myself with Gresham Smith. Our lead mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer from Campos Engineering is Clinton May. And Jeffrey Floyd would be overseeing the fire alarm work with Aurora. Okay, so the contract schedule and milestones, these are taken from the Division 1 section of the specifications. So this would be 01-1100. The contractor shall sequence and stage the work in accordance with the requirements of the contract documents to meet the following interim requirements and final completion date. So that would be the 120 consecutive calendar days for substantial completion from the date set forth in the notice to proceed. The 60 consecutive calendar days for final completion should be set forth from the date of substantial completion. And the total contract time is 180 consecutive calendar days from NTP. Okay, so this is just the project location. This is the rental car center bus maintenance facility. It's on 2425 Rental Car Drive in Irving, Texas. So on this, the right-hand aerial plan, you can see in orange, page south. This is just page south of the rental car center, and it is facing Rental Car Drive. Okay. So big picture, the overall scope of this project will be a rehabilitation of the facility, and it will encompass 3 buildings. And this site plan that you can see to the right addresses the bus maintenance building, which houses offices and the bus maintenance repair bays. And that's building 13404. That's the bus maintenance building. The bus wash building up at, I guess, page north, and then the bus fueling facility. So the scope of work will involve upgrading portions of the existing HVAC, electrical, and fire alarm systems, along with improvements to architectural elements and interior finishes. So there will be no structural scope. Most of this is going to entail mechanical, electrical systems, and then architectural finishes. Next. So this is a quick summary on the bus maintenance building. Um, the mechanical work would include replacing gas radiant tube heaters and gas unit heaters in the maintenance bays. They will also replace the VAV fan powered boxes associated with rooftop unit. and the rooftop units, supply and exhaust fans, and gas heat makeup units all at the roof. They're also going to remove and replace electrical panels and circuits, some safety and disconnect switches, and replace transformers and motor starters. Less on the mechanical electrical side. There we will be replacing exterior overhead doors, most of the hollow metal doors and frames and their associated hardware around the building. That's primarily exterior doors. We'll also have various areas of replaced ceiling tiles that would be disturbed due to any of the HVAC scope. There's also in the restroom facilities, the toilet partitions and the accessories will be replaced, along with lavatory counters and the associated plumbing fixtures. Then the break room of this building has a kitchen, basically a break room kitchenette. So there's the associated casework and plumbing fixture that would be replaced, and the adjacent floor and wall base and VCT flooring. And then the last item is for that break room, there's a sink drain that will tie into the closest below slab drain line. So that would address some slab cutting and placing a new drain. That essentially covers the bus maintenance building itself. Next slide. So this is the bus wash building scope. Pretty straightforward. We're going to replace the same thing. We're going to replace electrical panels, circuits, safety disconnects, switches, transformers, motor starters, and light switches and fixtures, and some associated outlets. We'll also be removing and replacing existing fire alarm annunciation devices and the associated addressable field devices as well. We're going to decommission and remove a vehicle lift and its miscellaneous piping and trench equipment, and we'll be having that trench filled with concrete. The addition of a new personnel door into the existing precast concrete wall, that would entail cutting a new opening and placing a new door with its hardware. And then all of the remaining hollow metal doors, frames, and hardware will be replaced. And then there are 3 overhead doors to this facility, this building, and those will be replaced with motorized doors and openers. And then the finishes that we're going to apply anti-slip coating on existing floor surface, and to prep the new coatings, it'll pressure wash the interior walls, floors, and ceilings to receive a new paint finish. And that would summarize the bus wash building. And then the bus fueling facility, there is a very small building that is essentially a storage building. The gas unit heater and its supply and exhaust fans will be replaced. We will update, essentially replacing the personnel door frames, hardware, and it's essentially going to all be pressure washed. The concrete walls interior and the floors will be prepared to receive a new paint finish. And for this building, it is only the building. No work is to be happening at the fuel islands. The phasing plan, working hours. The bus maintenance facility is to remain operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, So the operationals will continue during construction, and the contractor will need to coordinate with the DFW construction, manager, and the RCC bus maintenance manager, building manager, to minimize disruptions. The contractor will be required to provide a 1 week advance notice of upcoming work to the maintenance building manager, and that's Ronald Selby. And so that work can be scheduled around construction or vice versa. The contractor is not to impact normal bus traffic, employee traffic, bus parking, employee parking, unless requested and or approved by the RCC bus maintenance manager. Only one bus maintenance bay may be out of service at any time, and only one employee restroom may be out of service at any time. No street closures or interruptions to traffic outside of the project site are anticipated for this project, and any potential traffic impacts will be coordinated with DFW traffic with Sabine Schley. The exterior doors that are not replaced within 24 hours of removal will require a secure lockable panel or a DPS officer for security until the door is installed. And finally, the contractor will coordinate with DFW project team to schedule work around construction blackout dates per the Division 1's specification 01-1100 of the specifications. So the Division 1 standard specifications, project specifications, address various sections that are contractor related. So the updated specifications include a version 3 release, and that includes our table of contents, measurement and payment, building information modeling, schedules, the contractor quality control, closeout procedures, contractor roofing area access, and the roofing access form. And use revised specifications going forward.
Thank you. Now we're going to move into the contract overview. Next slide, please. Contract with the airport. The sample contract documents and exhibits are the basis to contract for this project. Firms submitting a bid must confirm acceptance of the contract terms and conditions and the sample contract of provided itemize exceptions, clarifications, and recommended modifications, and identify section of documents RFB deadlines for questions. References to previous executed contracts is not acceptable. If no exceptions, clarifications, or recommended modifications are provided, the airport would interpret that as the company's unconditional acceptance of the sample contract and related documents/exhibits. No additional exceptions, clarifications, or recommended modifications will be accepted or subject to negotiation if not provided by the question deadline. This next part that I'm going to read you is very important, so please take note of this. In conformity with the technical specifications section 017113 and special provisions article 4, the mobilization fee shall not exceed 8% of the total base bid amount. Should the total amount entered in the bid for mobilization exceed 8% of the total base bid amount, the bid shall be deemed non-responsive. In conformity with Special Provisions Article 5, the value of work performed by the contractor with its own employees shall not be less than 20% of the contract sum. Next slide, please. Any questions or concerns regarding the subject solicitation documents, including the plans, specifications, agreement and provision terms, must be submitted in writing prior to the solicitation Q&A deadline. If selected as the preferred firm, any attempts to negotiate these items after selection may be grounds for declaring an impasse and ceasing negotiations. The board will have to the board will seek to have a settled agreement with the most preferred firm prior to requesting airport board approval to promote an efficient negotiation process that results in contract in the event of an impasse. The airport staff reserve the right to negotiate and provide with the next preferred firm in accordance with the applicable law, including Texas Government Code 2269, Subchapter H, and Government Code Section 2269.362. Next slide. Contract acceptance, final payment, and closeout overview. Technical specification cover closeout requirements for the project. General Provisions 100-8 covers additional closeout requirements, acceptance, and final payment. Upon completion of the contract work in accordance with the contract requirements, acceptance by the owner, and prior to the final payment to the contractor must submit to the owner an affidavit that allows payroll, bills for material and equipment, and other indebtedness connected with the work for which the owner or the owner's property might in any way be responsible, have paid or otherwise satisfied. Consent of surety, if any, to final payment. Other data establishing payment satisfaction of all obligations, such as receipts, release, and waivers of all liens arising out of the contract, to the intent and in such form may be designed by the owner. Affidavits and consent from the subcontractors per paragraph A and B above to furnishing the same to the owner. Comply with all the terms of MWBE special contract provisions in Section G. Consultant must report all MWBE payments using the Airports Board Diversity Management System and submit a final B2G Now compliance audit summary concurrent with the consultant's submission of the final payment request. Next slide, please. Contract acceptance, final payment, and closeout overview. Comply with all terms of the MWBE special contract provisions in Section G. Consultant must report all MWBE payments using the airport's board's diversity management system and submit a final B2G Now compliance audit concurrent with the consultant's submission of the final payment request. The DFW project team will work with contractors to complete closeout procedures efficiently. We urge contractors to designate a closeout lead person for each contract. A percentage of the total amount determined to be payable in each monthly invoice will be deducted and retained by the owner until completion and acceptance of the work. Final acceptance and payment of retainage will not be made until closeout requirements are satisfied. Next slide, please. What you see here, contract forms to be completed by the contractors upon acceptance of the work. Other forms may require as identified in the technical specification. These are your release forms and these are what they look like. Next slide, please. In addition to those forms, you have your consent of surety, contractor's affidavit of payment of debts and claims, contractor's affidavit of release of liens. And this is what they look like as well. Next slide, please. If you have any questions, you can ask them at this time. Let's be mindful of one another when one is speaking, if we can stay muted so that we can hear each other. Or you can write your question in the comments if you don't want to speak aloud. Do we have any questions? Okay, next slide, please. Your reminders, questions, / clarifications must be submitted via Bonfire portal October 4th, 2024 by 4 p.m. Again, by October 4th, 2024 at 4 p.m. That is the absolute last day in cutoff time. Bids are due via Bonfire portal on October 29th, 2024, no later than 2 p.m. Below, you'll see the Bonfire solicitation portal. And if you did not sign in, also there's the link below to sign in there, as well as the QR code. I can take you back to the front screen, please, if they need to scan that. If there's no questions or concerns, that is all for today.